Hello, everyone. It's 5:30 and I'll call this meeting to order, and I'll turn it over to Mark to play our acknowledgement of the traditional lands, please.
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig and Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
Thank you. Now we'll start with the approval of the agenda. Trustee Clark, would you put that on the floor? Trustee Ellis, would you second that? All those in favor of the agenda? Okay. Anyone with declarations of conflict, of interest, please speak them now. Seeing none, we're going to move on to the approval of minutes of the January 15 Governance and Policy Committee, GPC. So I'd like to have this put on the floor. So Will, would you like to put this on the floor? Seconded by Trustee Tremoli, sorry. Any questions or changes or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes, so passed. Okay, there are no delegations tonight, so we're going to go straight into our staff reports, and we're going to go right into the first one, repeal of the section, selection of architects policy, 7.1, and I think who we're going to have present this? I think
Matthew Thomas.
You're right in the back there. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to have the senior project manager in design and construction, Jagdinder Janjal.
Jagdinder Janjal. Yes, he's online.
Okay.
He's online. Yes. Okay. Good evening. Through you, Chair McDonald, the report before you recommends that the selection of architects policy, FIN 807, formerly known as policy number 34, be repealed. In early 2024, the PDSB approved the implementation of the new procurement policy, FIN 810, formerly known as policy number 80, which now governs all procurement-related activities, including the selection of architects for major school capital projects. The new operating procedure, selection of architect consulting services, is in development currently to provide specific guidance regarding the selection of architectural consulting services for all types of major PDSB school capital projects. As a result, there will not be a policy gap resulting from this change. It should be noted that while policy FIN 807 was last reviewed in 2018, and while PDSB staff continue to follow a process to select architectural firms that is similar to what is outlined in the policy, there have been some changes to procurement regulations in the meantime, as well as best practices that will be included to inform the new proposed operating procedure for the selection of architect consulting services. As much of the major, or I should say as many of the major capital projects undertaken by the PDSB involve repeat school designs that have been used previously, a formal interview process for potential architects will be proposed in the new operating procedure only for those projects that involve new school designs. We have a general comfort level with respect to those architects that we've used previously with repeat designs. Therefore, given that the PDSB's new procurement policy, FIN 810, is now in effect and governs all procurement-related activities, and a new operating procedure governing the pre-qualification and selection of architects is currently under development, ensuring that there will be no policy gap in this area, it is recommended that policy FIN 807, formerly known as policy number 34, be repealed. And I'd be pleased, along with Senior Project Manager Jagdinder Janjal, to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that presentation. So I'd like to put this on the floor. So Carla Bailey, would you put this on the floor?
Yes.
Thank you. And seconded by Trustee Clark. So this is for recommendation. So do we have any comments or questions about this policy removal? Seeing none. So all those approval for removal of this old policy. So be it passed, and we'll move on to 7.2. Thank you so much for that presentation. And we'll move on to 7.2. So 7.2 is the anti-racism policy progress on policy implementation. We have that in front of us today for a recommendation, and for Lashana stepping in is our Associate Director, Camille Logan. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, and through you, Chair McDonald. I'm pleased to provide an update on the implementation of the anti-racism policy. And I want to acknowledge this is shared and steadfast leadership of LaShawn Murray, Policy Analyst, and Annette Day, Superintendent of Education, who are joining us virtually this evening. The anti-racism policy is a landmark initiative with the Peelschools School Board. We take great pride in sharing that the development of this policy has generated significant momentum, serving as a model for other school boards across the province. As outlined in the report, the inception of this policy was rooted in a motion passed in the fall of 2019. It subsequently became a foundational component of the ministry review, leading to the launch of the directives 5 years ago. Among the 27 directives from the ministry, Directive 16 states, the board shall develop its anti-racism policy in consultation with the board, community, and Ontario Human Rights Commission. The board shall make the policy applicable to both staff and students and include clearly defined outcomes, operating procedures, roles, responsibilities, and accountability measures. This update report details the policy development process, which employed a unique community-centric approach. The process was led by an external consultant, Dr. Watu Kente, with the guidance and support of the Ontario Human Rights Commission, as well as the collaborative leadership of the board's equity and research departments. The consultation process engaged over 2,000 participants, including students, staff, families, and community members. Over the past 3 years, the anti-racism policy has established a comprehensive framework to integrate anti-racism principles into all aspects of the board's operations. The policy remains closely aligned with the objectives outlined in the multi-year strategic plan, particularly the equity goal, which emphasizes the promotion of discrimination-free learning and working environments for staff and students. The board is fundamentally obligated to uphold human rights by ensuring that all students and staff experience an environment rooted in respect and dignity, and one that fosters success, confidence, and hope. I would like to draw your attention to the chart that is on page 3 of the report, which provides evidence of the anti-racism policy's integration across the system. While not an exhaustive list, this chart highlights key initiatives undertaken by central departments and schools to embed anti-racism principles into their programs and practices. These efforts also underscore the board's commitment to achieving the goals set forth in the multi-year strategic plan. Looking ahead, the future work will focus on further embedding the policy through the development of procedures and clearly defined next steps. This concludes the update on the progress of the anti-racism policy, and I welcome any questions.
Great, thank you. So let's put this on the floor to talk about it. Trustee Ellis, would you put it on the floor? Trustee Davies, would you second it? Okay, anyone would like to have any questions or comments about the presentation? This is for information only. I will ask one question. So it's just a future steps. You mentioned right at the end that establishing procedures and formalizing development procedures and setting their next steps and stuff. So the policy was to create a policy, which we did, and we did it through all that great consultation with the community and stuff. So really, it's now just making sure the policy has just been implemented in our day-to-day. It gets down, right? Rather, it doesn't stay up top, it stays down, again, where it works down. So how long do you think that process is needed to get that policy properly in every place of procedure and, et cetera?
And I think, through your chair, in response to how long, really this policy, I would say, is something that is ongoing. When we think about the implementation and the work of anti-racism, it's not something that's going to be done. It is something that's going to continue to be implemented, to be integrated. And as we bring on new initiatives and new foci, we want to make sure that it's foundational to those elements and aspects.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, this is just for information, so all those who received this report. Approved. Thank you so much, Associate Director Logan. And we'll move on to 7.3. So 7.3 is the parent and guardian or public inquiries policy. So I believe we're going to have our legal counsel today present that, E.B. Chugwangi.
That's correct.
Close?
Yes.
To present this. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I'm here today representing Legal and Privacy to present the Parent/Guardian and Public Inquiries Policy for your approval. This policy replaces the Public Concerns Policy and aligns with PPM 170, which was released by the Ministry of Education in June 2024. It sets expectations for how school boards should respond to parents' inquiries related to their child's education. The update includes feedback from internal staff, community consultations, and the union. Here are the key changes in the updated policy. First, we've introduced response timelines for parent inquiries. Schools must acknowledge parent inquiries within 2 business days and make best efforts to respond within 5 business days. If more time is needed, parents will receive an estimated timeline for resolution. Second, we've clarified the difference between parent inquiries and public inquiries. Parent inquiries follow the set timelines, while public inquiries will be addressed as soon as reasonably possible, but without strict timelines. Third, we've improved the escalation process. All inquiries should be addressed at the closest level, starting with the class teacher or school principal before moving to the superintendent, director's office, and then trustees if needed. This ensures that issues are addressed at the appropriate level and provides structure for parents' communications. Fourth, we've added guidance on vexatious, abusive, or frivolous complaints. The policy defines these complaints and outlines how staff should handle them. Lastly, we've improved equity and accessibility. The policy supports language interpretation services and the use of plain language. If approved, the policy will be posted on the PDSB website. Parents will know what to expect when raising concerns, and schools will have a clear process for responding. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that. So we're now, Carla, would you like to put that on the floor, please? And Trustee Promola, would you like to second that? Thank you. Now that it's on the floor, any questions or comments? Starts with Trustee Els.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you. I think this is an interesting policy. One thing that I wanted to ask was what guideline did we use to inform the best practice around the days of response?
That's from the PPM 170, through you, Chair. That's from the PPM 170, which sets clear response timelines for responding to parents' inquiries in relation to their child's education. It was released last June 2024.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So my question then would be, are we able to set a board guideline that would be quicker? I'm just thinking the 5-day response for parents that are dealing with, extreme violence or bullying or something that requires, a quicker response. To have them wait 5 days is long. Are we able to set something more ambitious for ourselves, or do we have to abide by the 5 days and 5 days only?
Through your chair, in terms of abiding, we do have to acknowledge parents' inquiries, and then we do have to respond within 5 business days. If we can respond sooner, that'd be great. But if we cannot respond within the 5 business day timeline, then according to PPM 170, we just need to provide the parent with an updated timeline for resolution.
Okay, so through your chair, I guess my question is, are we able to change it from 5 to say 3 should deliver a response, and then in that 3, perhaps be able to say, This is too onerous, so we can't respond.
So first of all, it's a we'll call it a maximum timeline, but then there's best practice. But I think the question you should ask is, from a board's perspective, can we do quicker?
I would like that. Yes.
Well, ask the question.
Sorry, through your chair.
Because it's one thing to say,
Yeah.
oh, we're gonna do, 10, 20 minutes, and the staff can't do it. So I think it's important to ask them if we can do it quicker, what would be a quicker?
Thank you, Chair. I think that's great advice. So I would like to ask you, Chair, if staff could set a best practice within the policy to guide admin to respond, within a shorter time frame.
To the chair, and may I just respond? PPM 170 does talk about the fact that there must be acknowledgement. So there would be acknowledgement to the inquiry, to the question, to let the parent know, we would receive your inquiry. However, it might take time in order to get back to the parent, depending on what the issue is, to address it, whether it mean that you have to, speak with the parent, speak with the principal. There might need to be some kind of investigation. So then you have a maximum of up to 5 days. So I think the key here is that the PPM 170 talks about the fact that there's an acknowledgement. So there is an acknowledgement within 48 hours to say, received your email, we're on it, we're going to address your concern as much as possible. But then there's just that maximum time. And I would say in most cases, it does happen sooner, but sometimes there's different things that occur, whether there might be a staff member who's away, a student or a child who's away, and that sometimes impedes the opportunity to uncover all of the different things that may need to occur in order for the situation to be resolved.
Yeah, the future. So I guess what I'm getting at is, when the 5th day does roll around for some nuanced issue, I wouldn't say issues, but some nuanced circumstances, we're seeing schools come back at the 4th day and telling parents, hey, we need more time. And then that goes on. But by that time, a full work week is gone. So I'm wondering if we can set a best practice to maybe the 3rd day, where if the school is going to know they're going to need more time, they can say, hey, look, we have 5 days to turn this around. We're just giving you a heads up. I just, maybe something to take back. I just think if we could strive for better, we should.
Well, just to interrupt. So we're talking about policy versus operation.
Yeah.
Right. And so you would like to see in an operational perspective that in operation, that if they feel that they're not going to get it done in, let's say, Monday, and I'm not going to get back to you on Friday, they should get back to you
Wednesday
in a shorter period of time. That could be an operational thing rather than a policy thing, right?
Through you, Chair, and thank you for the question, Trustee Els. And perhaps through our communication protocol, those are some of the pieces that we can indicate that we would like to achieve in response to what you've raised, and also fits within the timelines there. So we'll definitely take that back.
That all being said, like usually I see responses right away. When you say critical, they're getting back to you right away. But this now, make sure the public knows if they're calling about something that can wait, the wait is 5 days, right?
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions? So the old policy ultimately made the web page, and we had this beautiful diagram. And I haven't gone to look it up. This is where, as trustees, we get the first call.
Yes.
From anyone. This is the first time they know about a trustee. They go to this, website through the school, we're getting called. And I've always referred to the steps, which is great. There was a graphic on the website. My question is, are we going to put that a nice graphic? So, people, I don't want to read all this stuff. Just go to this, even our webpage. Here it is. Now you can click and find, great. Let's go read the policy if you really want to. They have 5 days to reply, or if it can't be done on the graphic, that kind of stuff. And, it's like we have the steps, but you almost have to have something along the side saying trustee, we're here the whole time babysitting you, along that process if needed. So is that the intent? Or do we need to put a motion on the floor to say that, refer this to communications to make the website, make a graphic? Because for most parents, this is the first, this kind of stuff is when they engage. And yes, teacher, principal, superintendent is really important because I have to, that's the mantra I say, have you talked to the teacher?
Yeah.
Sorry, they're long-winded. I know you're ready to give me a quick response.
Yeah, no, through you, Chair, certainly can, through you, Chair, and certainly can take that back. There will need to be something on the website that articulates exactly what the policy is and how it's to be implemented. So I imagine that some of these concepts that you have will definitely be in consideration to make it very easy, parent-friendly, because that's really our intent in order to support families. So
Right.
thank you for those suggestions.
And now that I'm brainstorming, and nothing to do with policy, but you know, again, they go to the school website and they see my name
And my cell phone number.
and my cell phone number, right? And they call. And so it would be, you know, nice if there's a checklet, what do we call it? Right there. It's, you know, complaint process or whatever you know, I'll use that word. It's, you know, you'll figure out what is more appropriate, but you know, resolution process or whatever, you know. And so they get to say, oh, okay, trustee, you know, doesn't have, you know, in there, doesn't have all the power, no one works for him, but it's there to guide and help, and as the policy says, connect to the right people and inform of policies that they may not be aware of that in their process of what they're inquiring about. Okay.
Thank you. Definitely will take all of that back.
Great.
Suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So any other quick questions? Yes, trustee Davis.
I just want to make sure, like, I know the last one we were saying we're canceling the policy. But I just want to make sure there's no gray areas or gray time where there is no policy. I mean, as soon as we repeal one policy, the other policy comes into effect immediately. Is that the way I understand? It's more of a governance question.
Of this one or the?
Well, the architects, selecting the architects is a good example. Okay, so we're taking away a policy. Now, does that immediately mean the new policy is in immediately, or is there just like a few days of grace where we can just hire any architect we want?
No, so what was presented for that specific case, and thanks for that clarity, that the existing policy that we put in, I think 2 years ago for procurement covers that. So there is some kind of duality, right?
Okay.
We had this, we have procurement policy that could do it, but we also had the architect. So we're just pulling that away. And now this is the only policy. However, to a bigger question, if we were going to, here, we're going to repeal this and put in this, we need to do them simultaneously. We can't repeal a policy without a one in there. And it's best practice not to put the new one in there before we repeal the other one. So it's both handed.
That's what I was just clarifying here, so that there's just not a few days of mayhem where there is no policy or procedure if I get a call on my phone. That's all.
Did I get that all right there? Our governance officer, perfect. I did that right. Thank you so much. So let's pass this policy. So all those in favor?
Yeah.
So approved. Thank you very much for that.
Sorry. Sorry, Chair, I did have my hand up. I just wanted to, sorry, Chair. I am going to vote to approve the policy, but I did want to note to your point about the communication piece. There is actually currently something on every school website, and I don't know if you can see this very well because I'm in an office that has poor connection. But this is something that's sort of a step-by-step guide, and it's listed on every school's website about sort of the chain that parents should go through if they do have concerns that they want to connect. Starting with the principal, talking to teachers, it's one step to the next about who they should reach out to within the school system. And the final step is actually listed as the trustee. But it is actually a helpful guide, but I think that sometimes parents have a hard time navigating some of our school websites. To your point, and I thought that this was an excellent point, Chair, having that something that's a little bit more prominent on each school's website so that they're able to better navigate the steps when they do have challenges or concerns would make a really big difference for a lot of people in our community too. So I just appreciated that, but I wanted to flag that we do have a graphic. It's just that I think sometimes people don't know where to find it too. So
Fewer clicks to find the graphic, please.
Correct. And thank you, Mr. Camoli. So remember, this is only a recommendation that goes to our board meeting. I think we need to reiterate that in the board meeting, and I think also communications are there, and we can ask that question specifically of them as well. Put them on spot. But anyway, do you want to have a comment?
I do have, through your chair, I do want to mention that we are currently working on communications protocol at the classroom level and school levels as well as mandated by the PPM. And I'm going to work to ensure that we have graphics there so that parents could easily see whom to reach out to in the protocol.
Right, and thank you so much. And I think this is where we could ask questions to communications about like in September, that first newsletter. Let's put that in the newsletter, click on the newsletter, we'll call it Chicklet on the newsletter because most are electronic. Put it on the website so that we get engaged and so they know the process, because we all know, have you talked to the teacher or principal? They have not, and that's the first step that needs to go. Trustee Ellis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to add, if you look at the chart that Trustee Promoli mentioned earlier, that the suggestion is only to contact your trustee in step 5. So to my earlier point, if you are a parent who's dealing with something difficult, I'm thinking of parents who perhaps English is not a first language, and they're going back and forth with the school, and the school gets to the 5th day, and the school's noting that they need more time, and 1 week becomes 2, and 2 weeks becomes 3. Sometimes they're coming to their trustee, and the issue's a month old. So this just helps color in the best practice. I think we have, if we're looking at this on a classroom level, it might be a good idea to also update the chart.
Yeah, and thank you. And that was my comment of having the steps and the trustees along the side, that they can be engaged all the way down, right? Depending on the seriousness of it, if it's about a grade, talk to the teacher. But if it gets serious about bullying, which is an item, they want to know the policy. So, we have a policy on bullying. Before you have your conversation with teacher, down the line. So, thank you for that comment. Any, Carl, Trustee Bailey, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you, through Chair. What I've listened to everything that everyone said. It's very valid, and I agree with all what you guys are all saying. One of the things that I've noticed when I'm getting calls from parents, it isn't so much of them calling. It's when they're calling, it's issues that typically aren't really in the realm of trustees. It is issues that it's redirecting them back to the schools for. So it's things that are not under the scope of a trustee that I'm finding. So on somewhere in that app, it's roles of a trustee. Things that you would go to your principals for, things that, I don't know how you would put it, things that a trustee is not responsible for. I don't know how you would put it or how it would help. Because sometimes I feel like it's on the website, the way it's worded, it's to facilitate communication. So they feel like, well, you're not helping me, so I'm going to go to the trustee and they're going to make you do what I want you to do. A lot of the times that's how the families feel.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you, Trustee Bailey. And I think we all echo those comments when we get the calls, and our process is a lot of education of our role. And they're surprised that, you have no, I'll use the word power, because no one works for us, right? What we do is our power is in the governance, sitting around this table setting policies. But our assistance is to help them understand the process, the policies, and I'm dealing with busing. Oh, we have a policy on that. Here you go. You'll have to talk, and you'll see the process there. So it would be nice. I don't know how you do it, because the list of what we do or don't is long or short, depending on what perspective you look at it. But it would be nice. Everything's hot linkable. So in there, what's the role of a trustee? Maybe that goes to some long page, but I appreciate the feedback, and we can echo that. I think in the public meeting with this policy comes for recommendation, and communication takes some directions to how to maybe make that easier for the public to understand their role in that complaint process, or as it goes forward. Okay.
Yes. Chair, I would just like to add that Trustee Bailey's concern in relation to parents coming to trustees with inquiries outside of the trustee's scope is currently addressed in our policy. And in this current policy, it does direct trustees to redirect those inquiries to the appropriate board staff member to handle it.
I know, but most people, parents, as they call, don't have read policy, don't even know about it. It's just, we, as I always say, one of our first roles for those calls is the telephone operator directing sorry about the old fashioned kind of reference, but it's just directing to the right people that can solve their problems. And it's hard for every problem to say, have a long list of, just call. It's like quicker.
Yeah.
So, it's a catch 22 kind of situation, but I appreciate your comment that it's in the policy, and absolutely, as all trustees around the table do, we do refer it to the right people, and refer it back to the school as I tell every principal when I go in there, every call I'm referring back to you, and you're the one, because you have the power typically to make the correction or a change or address the situation. Okay. So we've already passed it. So seeing none other questions, we'll just move on. This has already been approved. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. And we'll move on to the next policy. This is the honoraria policy, 7.4, amendment to the trustee honoraria policy of 2024-2025. I'm going to turn it over to our governance officer, Jasmine Borovic, for introduction of this updated policy.
Thank you. Good evening, and through the chair, I am presenting the highlights from the report amendment to the trustee honoraria policy for 2024-25. The primary recommendation of this report is to approve the revised trustee honoraria policy for the term from November 15th, 2024 to November 14th, 2025. This update is crucial as it aligns with the requirements set forth by Ontario Regulation 35706. This regulation mandates annual revisions of the policy based on updated enrollment figures. A significant change in this revision is the introduction of a provision regarding the reduction of honoraria for trustees who have been determined to have breached the code of conduct. Starting January 1st, 2025, a maximum decrease of 25% from a member's honorarium will be enforced in cases such as breaches, reflecting a new approach to maintaining accountability among board members. Following the approval of this revised policy, it will be made accessible to both internal stakeholders and the public via the PDSB website. In summary, the report emphasizes the need for an updated policy that reflects current regulations and brings us into compliance with legislation. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Put this on the floor, Trustee Clark, seconded by Trustee Alves. Anyone have comments or questions? Yes, Trustee Clark.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm just curious, for other jurisdictions with similar policies, is the percentage, the 25%, is that common? Are there places where it's greater, or?
I can answer that. That 25% is through the government regulation.
Oh, okay.
So we have to follow that regulation. So it's all the same.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks.
And we haven't had a change in the rate, I think, for over 10 years now. And our up and downs are totally related to enrollment, which our enrollment is slightly up this year. So we're doing more for less, right? I have a question. I have a question out there. Is it Trustee Bailey? Your hand's up.
Yes, it's similar to Trustee Clark's. I noticed it said on a maximum of 25%. The province stated on a maximum of 25%. What's the minimum? And who sets it?
So we read in the next policy, and I'll jump in for the governance officer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the next policy, the penalties for a code of conduct violation is actually set by the integrity commissioner, not by trustees. Now you do have the appeal. Sorry, I'm speaking before another item, but you do have the opportunity to appeal that. There's an appeal process, and then the trustees can change it, I guess, if that's the case. Did I get that correct?
You said that very well.
Thank
Chair.
you. Good. Any other questions, comments? So all those in favor of this, it requires approval? Okay, it's approved. Thank you. So we're going on to the aforementioned final item on our staff reports is the amendment to the trustees code of conduct, March 25th. So as we reviewed this, I had the governance officer send out the OPSPA templates and other regulation items for which this really, I'll say, wholesale change in the code of conduct, complaint and process have been modified. So I'm going to turn it over to our governance officer, Jasmine Vorak-Pick, to present this updated code of conduct.
Thank you. And through the chair, I present to you this evening the amendments to the trustee code of conduct. This code of conduct outlines vital updates and changes made to ensure effective governance within a Peel District School Board. The report emphasizes the importance of transparency, accountability, and public confidence in governance. A revised trustee code of conduct came into effect on August 28th, 2024, and reflects recent legislative amendments and incorporates feedback from trustees. Following the revocation of Ontario Regulation 24618 and its replacement with Ontario Regulation 31224, the trustee code of conduct has been updated to align with mandatory provisions for school board governance. The changes ensure compliance with Ontario Regulation 30624, which requires clear processes for addressing alleged breaches of the code of conduct. Important updates also include redefined roles for the Integrity Commissioner and precise protocols for handling these complaints. The accompanying complaint protocol has been revised to clarify the process and timelines for addressing complaints of misconduct, ensuring that notification is streamlined and that there is a clear deadline for resolution. The adoption of the amended trustee code of conduct is expected to enhance public trust and set clear behavioral standards for trustees, promoting a culture of integrity and respect across the board. As we move forward, the revised code will be posted on all public platforms to promote transparency and accessibility, and further communications will ensure that all stakeholders are informed of these developments. These amendments reflect our ongoing commitment to uphold high standards of professionalism and to foster a governance framework that prioritizes equity and accountability. And again, this recommendation is before you tonight to ensure that the board is brought into compliance with the legislation. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. So let's put this on the floor. Trustee Davis, put it on the floor, seconded by Trustee Bailey. Yeah, okay. So any comments or questions about the code of conduct? Trustee Alves?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick one, and I suspect I know the answer, but to confirm for the record, the definitions that we're seeing here for, for everything, for all of the terms, are those coming straight from updated legislation, or did we craft those definitions?
Through the chair, it would be a blend of what existed in our previous policy, OPSCO guidelines, and revised legislation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So since I have, 6 trustees here, half the board, I just want to really say that the whole process, as I said, as I introduced this, is changed on the complaint process. So right now you have to submit it to the chair, vice chair, or another trustee, depending on if you have an issue with the chair or vice chair. And if you read through it, he has an opportunity to try to resolve it within 20 days. So now the chair or vice chair or trustee is now involved, not the integrity commissioner. The integrity commissioner gets involved afterwards. And as I said earlier, the integrity commissioner will set the penalties, not the trustees. So it's a completely different process. There's some good timelines in there, which is really good, the 20 days and 60 days. Also, and a very important thing, I think we had previous one had 6 months from which you can file a complaint on an incident. Now it's only 60 days. So, you have to file it right away, or then it's It's past it's the time. So I just wanted to highlight that. I will highlight that, or the chair will highlight that in the board meeting when we go to approve this, just so we're all aware of it, because it is different for people who are familiar with the old policy and want to get, and may need it for in the future. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay, all those in favor of approving this policy? Approved. Perfect. So now we'll move on to there's no motions and communication. So 9.1, we have a memo from in relation to, what is it? The memo regarding the policy awareness for Peel District School Board volunteers and contractors. And this is arising from a question that happened in one of our previous meetings. So I'm going to turn it over to our governance officer and just make a few words. It's obviously the memo's there for you, but I think summarizing would be great.
Yeah, so as the chair stated, this was in response to inquiry from a previous meeting. Our policy analyst has provided this here from staff for more detailed information, and we can take back any questions.
Okay. So we're going to just receive this. I forget where I'm in. Trustee Promoli, do you want to put this on the floor for receipt? Seconded by Trustee Clark. All those in favor of receipt? Okay, so passed. So now we can go on to, there's no notice of motion, so we're going to go on to adjournment. So Trustee Ellis, Trustee Davies, all those in favor of adjournment? Thank you, everyone, for a great meeting.